Alright, should be... Yep, I see it recording. So yeah, just finished reading through Robbie, and we'll see how well this works. Highlights here, and the written up notes here. Especially, well, yeah. It's just a little weird because I've also still got the highlights in for the introduction. So reviewing some of these might be a little awkward, but anyhow. So yes, this first chapter is titled Robbie, and I think I'd already mentioned some of it, because you do have the setup for it given at the end of the introduction. Sometimes getting a drink of water just before doing a recording isn't the best idea. Anyway, I should also mention, it's getting late, so hopefully I can make this quick. The larger story to it is, you have a family of three. Mother, father, daughter. Daughter's name is Gloria. Then it's Grace is the mother, and George is the father. I don't quite remember. The main thing I remember is Gloria. But they also have Robbie, a robot that was made to be a nursemaid. Although one thing that's a little odd, because in the introduction it is mentioned this was before they were specialized, but then at the same time it is described that no, he is in fact made to be a nursemaid. He isn't suitable for other tasks. Doesn't quite seem accurate there, but I mean, it's different kinds of specialization, likely. Is what Asimov was referring to than this. Like a robot that's not expected to travel much, not having legs, because it would just be like on wheels or something. That could be a kind of specialization, or having additional limbs, because that may be needed. But anyway, it starts off with Robbie and Gloria playing. And one thing that is interesting to think about while it's going, and hey, let me add this. It is a good story for like reading to somebody as well, reading to a child. Just want to say that. But as an adult reading it, and as somebody who has written stories, it is interesting to look at it and consider, okay, is Robbie alive? How much of this is Robbie just playing the game, and how much of it is Robbie actually having a sense of enjoyment from the game and is a personality on his own, a character on his own, as opposed to, as I said, just playing a game. Because it starts off with them playing hide and seek. He's supposed to hide. She believes that he just went inside the house, which would be kind of cheating. But then as she's walking away, he realizes, okay, she's not far enough away. I can get to the home tree fast enough that I'll win. And he's going there full speed. And he is not cheated, by the way, but Gloria shrieked in dismay. Wait, Robbie, that wasn't fair, Robbie. You promised you wouldn't run until I found you. Her little feet could make no headway at all against Robbie's giant strides. Then, within 10 feet of the goal, Robbie's pace slowed suddenly to the merest of crawls, and Gloria, with one final burst of wild speed, dashed pantingly past him to touch the welcome back to home tree first. By the way, this is also a setup. The fact that he can take such long strides, that he is so fast. I'll get to that later, though. But it still is, technically, okay, if you want to say he's just a robot doing whatever he's ordered to, he would have stopped. He wouldn't have slowed to a crawl. So at minimum, he understands the nature of the game. So he is still playing the game with her, because he doesn't just stop. He continues some activity. Because if you just completely stop, then say, okay, well, the game is done. It's like, no, he's continuing the game. He's not going to win. He's accepted that. But he hasn't just surrendered to her, because that surrender would be to end the game. So it is still, letting the game be played out. And yeah, so you do see at least an understanding of the game. Even without necessarily attributing it to, he does have a personality. Yeah, because she's one, she gleefully turns towards faithful Robbie, and with the basest of ingratitude, rewarded him for his sacrifice by taunting him cruelly for a lack of running ability. I mean, it's like, no, he easily could have won, but it's still, she's a kid. Kids are stupid. Kids are also mean. It's like there is a certain reality here that about children, is they do tend to be mean, they do tend to be cruel, but I mean, they all grow out of it. At least they're supposed to. Obviously, there are some exceptions, but there's also a level of, well, it should be in both directions. Like, a kid is cruel, but we'll also have children be cruel to them back, and you work it all out. Oh, interpersonal stuff is always fun. Anyhow, especially at that age. But, yeah, it's... Obviously, this is what the child's gonna do. And, Robbie can't run. She shouted at the top of her 8-year-old voice, "I can beat him any day, I can beat him any day." She chanted the words in a shrill rhythm. And I also just want to check. Anything from this? From my notes I typed up? Not really. Okay, Robbie can't speak, but he does still respond. By pantomiming running instead, inching away until Gloria found herself running after him. So again, he's continuing to play a game, which, if you just want to see it as he is a robot, he understands the nature of playing games here. That's all he's doing. It's not that he's... he is still just obeying orders. He is not just thinking. But he is, pantomiming running so that she's approaching. But then once she's near, then he actually starts running at speed. And describes how, she chases after him, and he keeps dodging her so she can't grab him. And it's just continuing to play with her. Which, maybe it is just playing the game. Maybe it is personality. Okay. So then they do another round where now she hides, he's a seeker, and it is funny how it describes, like, he has eyelids, more or less, a visor that comes down to block his eyes. And apparently has a clock mechanism because it just ticks off the 100 seconds. He can't say the 100, but it ticks off 100. And then he, when it's up, he looks around and does spot something where it's like, it looks like that's her dress out from behind that rock. Let me get closer, and does recognize that, yes, it is her, but she doesn't move until it's like, yeah, it's clear he sees you. And he also with one arm is like reaching out towards her, with the other arm slaps his thigh so it rings, making it clear, I found you. And she accuses him of cheating, of having peeked. But yeah, you peeked. Besides, I'm tired of playing hide and seek. I want to ride. This is such a child. I mean, this is exactly it. Where it's like, well, I just lost, but I don't want to play the game anymore. I want to do something. So I want to do something. This is children. This is kids. And it's like, as I said, yes, kids can be cool, but it is part of how kids are. Just, go with it. Keep going with it. I mean, I got a story that isn't like this. Back when I was doing a summer camp program, I wasn't part of the specific camp within the program that this child was in, because much too young. I didn't want to work with a group of kids that young. But every day I'm there and I'm seeing the father drop the child off. And this is like first grade or kindergarten, like that age of kid. Every day. The kid cries and cries and cries at having to leave his dad. His dad's dropping the kid off, has to assure him he'll be back, all that stuff. You'll have a fun time, all that. And then has to leave to go to work. This 5-day camp goes on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not Friday. Which, unfortunately, I wasn't able to witness. I was taking care of some other stuff. I was there so early to help set things up. I was elsewhere. And came back, and I asked one of my coworkers who was there, so what happened with kid? And she was like, oh, the little kid let the door shut in his dad's face. Because he was having fun. He was finally having fun. It's like, that's kids. That's kids. But it's like, yes, he misses his dad, doesn't want to leave his dad, but now that he's acclimated, basically, on the last day, of course, now it's like, bye, Dad. It's like, don't even care about you. I want to do this now. It's kids. But yeah, so anyway. So she doesn't want to play hide and seek anymore. Wants a ride. But Robbie was hurt at the unjust accusation, so he seated himself carefully and shook his head ponderously from side to side. Basically, nope, not gonna do it. You hurt my feelings. Again, this could be him playing the game. And it is also kind of childish. So he's playing it at her level as well. Which, this is, you could say, it is an awareness of how he should play this game, not necessarily personality. But what's interesting, what gets him to snap out of it. Hard-hearted, Robbie paid scant attention to this dreadful possibility of her crying, and shook his head a third time. Gloria found it necessary to play her trump card. "If you don't," she exclaimed warmly, "I won't tell you any more stories, that's all. Not one." Robbie gave in immediately and unconditionally before this ultimatum, nodding his head vigorously until the metal of his neck hummed. Carefully, he raised the little girl and placed her on his broad, flat shoulders. Which, by the way, some aspects of his design do seem to match what we see there in the cover, at least as far as the red eyes. But other things about the design do not match. But he is described as having red eyes. So here we do get a sense of no, this might actually be personality. Because why would he care about story? Now, potentially it is still just games. That he knows she enjoys telling stories, and so he attributes a value there that her threatening that is so significant a threat, he needs to give in now. Ultimately, he would always give in, but because of the specific threat, it's the highest threat, it's the triple dog dare of threats, essentially, he must comply. You could still say it's that. But it gets interesting later on. Because, yes, he does play with her, he does, run around, and she transitions from him being an air coaster, so a variant on a roller coaster, to him now piloting piloting around as though there's pirates. He's a spaceship. I mean, just these very whimsical transitions that obviously a child will run through in such a game like this. But then finally comes time, they stop, and he wants a story. He wants a story now. And which one? And he makes a semicircle in the air with one finger. Again? I've told you Cinderella 1,000,000 times. Aren't you tired of it? It's for babies. Now, potentially, again, this is the game. That he knows that it's a story she particularly likes telling. And indeed, it is referenced... Gloria composed herself, ran over the details of the tale in her mind, together with her own elaborations, of which she had several, and began. So again, she has these several elaborations, so she does enjoy telling it. She does enjoy the story, even if it is for babies. So it could still be that he is just reflecting certain aspects of her because he knows that is what she will enjoy the most. So it could still be the game, but it's then later... So now the mother has come out and is worried about where they are because she can't see them. They were in tall enough grass and lying down such that can't see at a distance. But once they hear a voice, they pop up and it's like, oh, okay. And she is like, oh, okay. Walks back inside. It's like, they just lost track of time. It's dinner. But after they get in there, it's like, where were you? I was with Robbie. I was telling Cinderella and I forgot it was dinner time. Well, it's a pity Robbie forgot too. You may go, Robbie. She doesn't need you now. Then, brutally, and don't come back till I call you. The mother doesn't like Robbie. And I think there is some additional psychology we might be able to read into this. I'll get to that. Yeah. Robbie turned to go, but hesitated as Gloria cried out in his defense. Wait, Mama. You got to let him stay. I didn't finish Cinderella for him. I said I would tell him Cinderella, and I'm not finished. So there is potentially also an element of personality here. I mean, true, he is responding, but did he actually truly want her to finish the story? Yeah, because we do have the robot left with the I'm not going to be able to pronounce that word. Disconsolate. Here, let me just do it this way. Oh, come on. There we go. A very unhappy and unable to be comforted. Well, very unhappy and unable to be comforted step. And Gloria choked back a sob at the whole that she hasn't gotten to finish it. Disconsolate? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, and I'm trying to... Yeah, that may actually be correct. I at some point I really should learn how to read the phonetic language stuff. But that I'm not gonna be able to translate that. Um, so he was Cinderella. The larger point is we are definitely seeing some personality to it. It is potentially not just the game. Um, okay. So getting to the point about the deeper psychology with the mother, and want to get to this next highlight because that ties into the notes here. Um, she's complaining. He doesn't leave her for a moment. So now the husband, father, responds, "Well, why should he? He's not supposed to. And he certainly isn't a terrible machine. He's the best darn robot money can buy, and I'm damned sure he set me back half a year's income. He's worth it, though. Darn sight cleverer than half my office staff." So she has been treating Robbie as just a robot, just an object, just a machine. While the father here does have some value to it, and also recognizes the value that it does have. It does serve Gloria, absolutely. And there's also something later on here about the whole first law of robotics. There's the amount of things that have to fail in Robbie before it could be a threat to her that the first law of robotics would no longer hold. That list is so long, it would already be non-functional before then. Which we haven't yet gotten into all the stuff with laws of robotics, but we will be getting to that. Still, we get this much here. But one thing that occurred to me while writing this is an interesting possibility to consider is that the mother's psychology here, because what's going on? She's not taking care of Gloria. She's not there. Robbie is. But it's also kind of suggested that, well, later on, she was okay with the idea of having Robbie around 2 years prior when they actually got him. So it seems like she's something of a hypocrite. I think there's a better word, I just can't think of what it is. In that she simultaneously wants and cares about Gloria, but also doesn't care enough to actually want any of the responsibility. Robbie has the responsibility of actually caring for Gloria, not her, not Grace. And she's kind of trapped in this because she doesn't want those responsibilities, but Robbie is also fulfilling them so effectively, it's making her envious and she envies Robbie potentially, but is also jealous. She wants rid of Robbie. She degrades him. I was going to say demean, but I think degrade may be a better word here. She degrades him because she's jealous. She wants Gloria to be her daughter, but she's also not really interested, not really doing the things to make Gloria her daughter. She's not involved there, and it is interesting to notice and think about. Especially with how certain other things end up going. Because, I mean, she tries to basically argue that, well, Gloria isn't playing with other children. It's like, well, that's actually not that uncommon. Did I actually... I don't remember, but as a... I don't remember where it is. I may have highlighted it, it's just later. Oh, no, here it is. You're jumping at shadows, Grace. Pretend Robbie's a dog. I've seen hundreds of children who'd rather have their dog than their father. You're basically making the point that your argument that she plays with Robbie instead of other kids, that's not really unusual. That if it were a dog, she'd play with the dog all the time and not play with other kids. And the reality is that, again, that's kids. Some of them are highly social. Some of them aren't. Well, yeah, I guess technically. I mean, Gloria isn't non-social. It's just her social circle is Robbie and her parents. That's it. She doesn't go outside of that. Which, yeah, in some ways that might not be great, but at the same time, you can't necessarily force the issue because kids, they develop, they do grow. Some of that you need to watch to see, okay, and decide, is this healthy, is this unhealthy? And it seems that the dad's point of view is much more of a, this isn't unhealthy, I'm not worrying about it. Because it's not like Robbie would ever allow harm to come to or be the source of that harm. But as I said, Grace, the mother, is more. I think she wants the kid, but doesn't want to be responsible for the kid. I think that there's an element of that there, and is envious and jealous, as I described. But one thing that Grace ends up trying to do to convince her husband to get rid of Robbie is to say that, well, the whole community hates him. It is afraid of him. That's why they don't come over here anytime. And, I have to go out and I have to deal with them. I have to go shopping and interact with them there, and it's so horrible. His response is, Grace, this is one of your campaigns. I recognize it, but it's no use. And it's like, I know you're making this up, woman. But he still does ultimately give in, and I love how Asimov wrote this. I'm not sure how many authors would write this today, which is sad because it's such a good way to put it. And yet he loved his wife, and what was worse, his wife knew it. George Weston, after all, was only a man, poor thing, and his wife made full use of every device which a clumsier and more scrupulous sex has learned, with reason and futility, to fear. I mean, it's such a good way to put it that basically, she's a woman. She knows how to control him. She knows how to instill such fear in him that he will just do what she wants. It's like, yep. And as a member of, I'm not sure if I necessarily will go with the more scrupulous, but definitely the clumsier sex. Yeah, I can believe that. I got no contradiction there at the moment. Not to say that there are times that I'm always clumsy, but yeah, it's a thing. So now, because he has given in, he has had to become part of the charade to a degree for how Robbie's gotten rid of. Which is basically he's just sold back to the company, to US Robotics. But the mother has forced him to take her to essentially a play. What was it? A Visobox? And she was so excited coming back. Well, they told her that Robbie couldn't go because Visovox. Okay. Which sounds like either like stage play or a movie, something like that. But was told that Robbie couldn't come. She wanted him to come, but couldn't come because just robots aren't allowed there. This gave time for the mother to have somebody come remove him, but also they got a dog for Gloria. But I had to highlight this because the mother just straight up lies to the kid. And not a, like, oh, yes, the dog isn't dead, but, we had to send the dog away to a farm. Not just that kind of lie. Because that's, like, just a misdirection kind of lie. But this is a bald-faced lie that she ends up having. Because she's trying to say that he's gone away. And also it was Robbie has gone away, I think. Where's he gone away, Mama? No one knows, darling. He just walked away. We've looked and we've looked and we've looked for him, but we can't find him. You mean he'll never come back again? Her eyes were round with horror. We may find him soon. We'll keep looking for him. I mean, it's like, she is straight up coldly lying to her daughter here. I'm just like, that's just... I mean, just the whole he ran away and be like, where would we find him? And he's like, how could we find him? It's like, to just straight up lie, it is... I think it is not inappropriate to read in here. She liked the idea of Robbie when it meant she wouldn't have to have responsibility with her daughter anymore. But she's also come to realize that makes her a bad mother. And she can't have both. But it is also, I think she, later on, as things develop, because Gloria is heartbroken at this. And even describes, like, she loses weight because she's not eating. And this is going on for months. And to a certain degree, it seems like she's play-acting a mother. That Grace is play-acting the mother for Gloria. In thinking about how to make her feel better. And also what things she tries to distract Gloria with. And it's and I think you might be able to interpret it as, well, these are things that Grace wants. But there's also this. So Gloria talking. He was not no machine. So not completely proper English, but anyhow. Yeah, screamed Gloria fiercely and ungrammatically. He was a person just like you and me, and he was my friend. I want him back. Oh, Mama, I want him back. Her mother groaned in defeat and left Gloria to her sorrow. Yes, at times you would have to just leave a child alone. I understand that. Even when they're upset like this. But groaned in defeat and then left. It's like, she's really not that good at this mothering stuff, is she? And this went on for so long that this is how it's described. Gradually, her attitude of passive unhappiness wore Mrs. Weston, that's her last name, Mrs. Weston down, and all that kept her from yielding was the impossibility of admitting defeat to her husband. This is not a good woman. It really does. I mean, the thought I had about, yes, I've read the book before. It's been a decade and a half. But it's like, so I knew some of this. I didn't remember some of these specific details, but yeah, the note I wrote earlier that she just hates the whole situation that she allowed. She finds it embarrassing, but she's also one who wants certain aspects of it, trying to have it both ways, essentially. And now it's again, she knows she's wrong, but she's going to stick with it because she can't admit defeat to her husband. It's like, what is wrong with you? But finally she comes up with a plan to try to distract Gloria, which is, let's go somewhere and just try to give her all these new interests so that Robbie slips from her mind. We're going to take her to New York. She's explaining the plan to George, to her husband. The city in August. So do you know what New York is like in August? It's unbearable. Millions do bear it. They don't have a place like this to go to. They didn't have to stay in New York, they wouldn't. So, well, we have to. I say we're leaving now. I have a feeling that what we can read in here is she doesn't like living in the country. She wants to live in the city. So some people, that's genuinely what they believe, that the city is the better life. One thing actually kind of funny, and I'll mention here, I may mention again when I do the assigned reading for the Children and Gifts, is one way I would describe Jacob. And this is not captured in the book. This is just how I understand the character, so it's true for the character. He is from a small town, so he would be from a country town like this. And he does have it in his head that basically the future for him, that the good future he wants, is something he would find in a city, that he wants to live in a city, wants to work in a city, all that. But in truth, he if he were to actually get that, he would find that it's not satisfying. Everything that he wants is in fact in that small town. But it is here, so it's like he thinks that's what he wants, but he is wrong. He or she might actually be correct that the city is what she wants, but still I have a feeling this is, again, part of the whole, she's just doing what she wants. And she's finding ways to turn it to get her what she wants. She wants them to go to New York. And they go for a month. That's a significant vacation there. But it lets them, they go see shows, they go shopping, they go to museums and such, all that. Things, undoubtedly, she wants to do. Yeah. We have to. Gloria has lost 5 pounds in the last month, and my little girl's health is more important to me than your comfort. It's a pity you didn't think of your little girl's health before you deprived her of her pet robot, he muttered, but to himself. So it's also, she is... You can interpret her statement as either that she does care, or she's trying to manipulate him still. Just trying to guilt him that, well, we have to do this because it's necessary for health. It's like, but he's just pointing out, you didn't care about that before. You didn't think about the consequences of separating her from Robbie in such an abrupt and false manner. So yeah, again, it's... it is kind of sad, the idea that this is very accurate, probably. As far as there are absolutely women that Grace Weston is a real example. It is a literary example of real women like that. And to be fair, there would also be men. Same exact behavior. It's just, it is disappointing either way. At least to me. One thing, though, that is funny, I'm just checking my notes with some of this. Okay. Is Gloria actually does perk up at the idea of going to New York. And is like, putting out, is eating healthily again, has her appetite back and all that. But then it's when they're finally on the thing to fly there that she finally reveals why she's so excited. I know why we're going. We're going to New York so we can find Robbie, aren't we? The statement caught George Weston in the middle of a drink of water with disastrous results. There was a sort of strangled gasp, a geyser of water, and then a bout of choking coughs. When all was over, he stood there, a red-faced, water-drenched, and very, very annoyed person. The one thing I'm disappointed by there is I feel he should have been laughing a little bit. I would be. It's like the annoyance would not be directed at the daughter. If it were me, it would be directed at the wife. That's like, we're going through all this, and you have failed so utterly. Damn it. It's like, why did I ever let you get rid of the robot? But Grace maintained her composure, and when Gloria repeated her question in a more anxious tone of voice, she found her temper rather bent. Maybe, she retorted tartly. Now sit and be still, for heaven's sake. She hates this whole situation. By the way, this is set in 1998. Boy. You know what's funny? I actually do know somebody, young woman named Grace. Wasn't even alive then. Was born 6 years or so later. And it's just kind of funny. Just how that's working out. I don't think she would behave this way, for what it's worth. I don't know her that well, but I really hope she wouldn't. I may have to make a joke with her next time I see her, if I remember. Just the whole, never have a daughter named Gloria. Don't do that. It'll be weird. Unfortunately, she might have no concept of the reference. I don't know how common reading iRobot is. Oh yeah, I guess one other thing to add about the whole him giving 1998 as the date. If you read the Catherine version, this is very intentional from me, by the way. I don't give years, and that's completely intentional. I don't like the idea of trying to describe a futuristic science fiction setting and giving a year such that then at some point people can be like, well, he was wrong. So what? It's not important also. I mean, within the setting, yes. So, like, to use Star Trek as an example. Within the setting, knowing how stardates progress, so this event happened before or after another event, and approximately how far apart, that's good. That's helpful. But the fact that technically takes place, what is it, 3 centuries in? Because isn't the 23rd century? Well, about 3 centuries after when Star Trek started. I think it's about that. So now around 200 years into the future, it's like probably not hitting a lot of that stuff that Star Trek describes by the time we reach there. But it's kind of disappointing, the whole. It's like people thinking that and then being like, oh, we were wrong. It's like, or even with Back to the Future and the predictions there. It's like, well, Back to the Future, you had to give the years there because people were still alive in that time. But it's like, to me, it's like, no, I'm avoiding if I can. If I don't need to, I'm going to avoid it. Because also to me, I don't think it's terribly relevant to those stories. Now, to be fair, though, I've got another book series that I don't want to talk about. One of them is out. It's one of the books I don't recommend, though. I want to rewrite it, though. That is set in the future. That's actually a little bit more reasonable, I think, some of the predictions I made in there. Especially because some of that technology was starting to get today. But with the Failure series, technically both of those, Failure when that came out, it would still be considered modern. Contemporary. The events in that and the day it came out. The Children of Gifts technically is set, I think 2 or 3 years earlier than when I published it. Just because it's only it took me like 6 years after writing Failure that I finally wrote it, but it's set like 2.5, 3 years after the events of Failure, so it's technically in the past. The Immortals War, which is the next sequel for that, so third book in that series, that will probably end up being in the future, but it would only be like a few years. Then the fourth book in that is actually supposed to be like 50 years or so in the future, decades in the future. We'll see how some of that goes. But fortunately, that I'm not so concerned with technology in, because that's super fantasy, not science fiction. Yes, now this note is amusing. So they go to a museum that includes exhibits on robots, including the talking robot, which, by the way, Susan Calvin, right? Yes, is actually there and it's like at this exhibit. And it's kind of funny that she was there to see this and is making notes for a physics paper. And she's just a teenager, so she's in high school. But what's kind of funny is it was mentioned previously that she didn't meet the girl until later. At least the way it was written made it sound like she did say she met the girl, Gloria, at the museum. Technically that's this, but it's also, I think how that was written, I'd have to go back and look and I don't feel like it. She also referred to it as though this was after Robbie had in fact been taken apart, had been dismantled. So this would be used in the future, that she was at the museum again and met Gloria. So I'm not sure. Maybe it is that she recognized, and this isn't just a funny little aside that, hey, it turns out they did cross paths earlier, but whatever. But Gloria has gone to the talking robot because it's kind of like modern large language models, not nearly as capable as or advanced, but in that it is something you can ask a question to and it'll give it the answer. But she asked the talking robot to help her find Robbie. Who's Robbie? It's like, well, he's a robot like you. A robot like me? Yes, Mr. Robot, sir. To which the talking robot's only response was an erratic splutter and an occasional incoherent sound. The radical generalization offered it, i.e. its existence not as a particular object, but as a member of a general group, was too much for it. Loyally, it tried to encompass the concept, and 6 coils burned out. Little warning signals were buzzing. And it's just kind of funny to me that this idea that... that's what I want to talk about, this idea that just it coming to recognize the idea that there's more, that it is not totally unique, that there are other things that are also robots out there, and how that is trying to figure that out and it's messing with its mind. It is an interesting thought that that's something that would cause it to go a little insane as it tries to understand that concept. I don't think it actually would if it were a real machine. I don't think that that's what would happen, but maybe. I mean, it is. I'm not saying that as any way of criticizing Asimov's thoughts here. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I wish I better understood exactly why he thought that. But I can't criticize it directly. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just curious what the underlying thought was. Now we get the father's plan, which I want to give more credit to him than what is actually described later on when the plan happens, but I'll explain that. So it's basically, he's got his plan now. Alright, here's what I've been thinking. The whole trouble with Gloria is that she thinks of Robbie as a person and not as a machine. Naturally, she can't forget him. Now, if we managed to convince her that Robbie was nothing more than a mess of steel and copper in the form of sheets and wires with electricity, its juice of life, how long would her longings last? It's a psychological attack, if you see my point. So his plan is to take her to US Robotics to see them being manufactured, so that now she'll see that they are just machines. One is interchangeable with another, not a person. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I am at the end of the notes, basically. And also, effectively, the end of the chapter as well. No more highlights. Now, I want to give him more credit, that he has actually constructed this for a slightly different reason than what he's just describing there. And he's manipulating his wife as well. That he sees it as, okay, either what I've just told my wife is true. Gloria will see that one robot is like another, and that will break her of this obsession with Robbie. We're done. We're good. Moving forward. Or, and it's like, this is what the wife would like, and problem solved. Or, because he knows Robbie is there, and he does kind of set things up so that she will run into Robbie, or she will see Robbie, will recognize it as Robbie, and be reunited with Robbie, proving that, at least as far as Gloria is concerned, Robbie is a person. And therefore, that will compel the wife to have to accept Robbie back. That you cannot separate these two. So again, the problem is solved. So yeah, I want to give him credit that basically he sees that either way, by having this confrontation at Gloria with robots, one hopefully being Robbie, that the problem must resolve them. I like that. I really like that, because it is very clever. It's very intelligent. But it's not necessarily, when it actually does happen, and I did misremember a little bit of the details of it, when it actually does happen, and he explains it, because she's like, you knew this, didn't you? You planned on this. It's like, yeah, I did. Not all of it, but, and I don't like how he's basically saying that, he always expected that it would be that Gloria would just recognize Robbie and go with that. I do kind of wish that it had a little bit more of the, well, even if you were right and she does dismiss it, still the problem is solved. A little cold, but I mean, yeah, why not? It makes sense. It does solve the problem. So anyway, what happens is that he finally gets the tour guide to take them to where Robbie is working. And it's also funny, the wife argues that Robbie shouldn't be in there. He wasn't designed for that kind of work. He's involved with the manufacture of other robots. And it's like, well, why wouldn't he be capable of it? I mean, it does describe. He is powerful enough that a 2-inch bar of steel he can bend into a pretzel. So he clearly has physical strength for it, and it's reasonable he would have dexterous digits. So why this whole, well, he wasn't designed for this work would interfere with that, I don't know. But anyway, they enter the room, and all the robots, including Robbie, are at a table about midway through. And Gloria, seeing the robots, spots Robbie, which, by the way, it's heavily implied that Robbie does look visually different from the others. Again, it's already been described that they have not been specialized yet, so I would think that they would actually be very similar in appearance, but anyway. Like that's another thing where it's, okay, fine, I guess he was built such that he does have a different appearance from the others, because his original purpose is different from theirs, but it's still, whatever. I know, I just wish it were a little bit more like she can pick him out of a crowd, not that not that he does stand out from the crowd objectively, but that there is a connection between them. But anyway, upon seeing him, she leaps at him, basically pushes through a railing, and it is not paying attention to anything around her at all. Is just charging forward towards him. And Robbie does see her, does recognize her, drops his tools, and is like getting up in response. And it's a good thing, too, because his responses can be much faster than anyone else's, any of the humans there. Because there was a tractor that was going by and didn't see her. And how I said before, it was set up at the start that he can move very, very quickly. He crosses the room in an instant and picks her up half a second, it describes, before the tractor would have hit and most likely killed her, or at least severely injured her. And is so fast that he's basically gone past, because George does also leap over to try to grab Gloria, but is too slow, in part because he didn't see her do this initially. And also humans, we do have a reaction time. But Robbie is so fast that he doesn't even see Robbie go past him. He just feels Robbie going past. He has the sense of it. That's how quickly Robbie crossed the space, picked her up, knocking the wind out of her, which I do appreciate, and getting past the tractor and then stopping there. So this does confirm that, yes, Robbie is dedicated to her life, to protecting her, to providing for her, to caring for her. So really, Grace, you cannot separate them, okay? This is his purpose in life, is to serve her. And she does own it. But I also just want to add, because I did have the whole... I do appreciate that him grabbing her without breaking stride knocks the wind out of her. I appreciate that because it's one of those things, and you see it in certainly some superhero fantasy, like in some movies. I don't remember if I'm guilty of it in my superhero fantasy stuff. I potentially am. I hope I'm not. I do try to avoid it because it does annoy me. The idea of, like, it's been a while since I've seen it, but the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, which technically there are early ones, but that one, you got Lois falling down outside of a skyscraper, potentially has reached terminal velocity, and he just comes in. She's going like this and just grabs her like that. It's like there's a lot of momentum that she had going down that he's just countering and is now applying momentum going in that direction as well. That would hurt her. It's like that's a massive sudden change of momentum. A lot of energy has just moved. It would hurt. It would potentially injure Lois Lane. So Gloria being mildly injured here with just the wind being knocked out of her, I appreciate that because, like, yes, you have this robot moving at high speed, grabbing her and continuing to move at that speed. It would be a sudden shock to her and would knock the wind out of her. So like, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a details matter kind of thing. It's technical, but it's accurate. It is accurate. It's kind of the converse of the reverse of in various forms of media, where you, like, somebody gets shot even by a handgun and sends them flying back. It's like, no, that there wouldn't be that much force applied from a bullet. And it's also the whole, remember, whatever force the recipient of a bullet would feel, because of how Newton's laws work, whoever fired the gun would feel that force pushing themselves back in an equal amount of force. Actually more, because they would feel the full force of it, whereas by the time a bullet reaches you, it's slowed down. And also, there might even be less, because technically some energy is carried away from the powder burning out, and it's like it's going out in different directions, that you're still feeling that force as well. Anyhow, that would be less, but it still is the kickback from a gun would be at least equal to, if not greater than, the force somebody else would feel. And it's like, but it's like, nah, you get thrown back. It's like, no, not how that works. So here it's like, yes, this is more how it works. So I like that. Okay. Oh yeah. Next up is Runaround, which is another one of the stories that I do particularly remember. Because it's actually a really neat story, and it's actually very technical, and is very much science fiction. You'll see when we get to it, but it is that there's nuance to the science fiction, to how the laws of robotics work. So this one, we will definitely be getting into that. And yeah, it's that nuance that's really, really nice, and I really, really like. It's kind of like how in the presentation that I gave, that I recorded, that I gave and then recorded and put on the channel, the whole, you build a box of these rules. I mean, you're the one that built the box, but you have to stay in the box. And it can actually be really cool because it compels you to be creative. This is one of those things that with science fiction, because of that box, finding that nuance there requires a good technical understanding of what you're dealing with. And Runaround is a very good example of that. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading it again and getting to talk about it. It might be weird, the things that get me happy like this, but yeah, it is what it is. I like my science fiction, and it's good science fiction. At least my memory of it. Hopefully it holds up when we actually get to reading it. See you next time.